So you got yourself a Gundam model kit, it's finished and it looks awesome. But you know there's one more step that's going to make it look even more awesome, getting it up in the air in an incredible, dynamic action pose. But how do you get it from the ground up in the air? So you might jump online and look for what various stands are available, see that Bandai has action bases, and then you see they have 1 through 7, and then a ton of different variants branching off from there. What is a gunpla builder to do? Well, don't worry, you're in the exact right place because this is Mecha Gaikotsu's no BS guide to Gundam action bases. I'm going to keep it right to the point and explain each one so you know the best from the worst from everything in between. Now I'm just going to mention this straight away because I know I'm going to get asked 1,000 times. No, that is not a lit up action base. I just took a ring light and threw it on top of a standard action base. You can grab just a camera ring light like this, or if you want something a little bit more permanent, you can just grab a USB powered ring light and throw it on any action base. It looks cool. It uplights them. It's a phenomenal move and always looks cool. But anyway, onto that list. Bandai's Action Base 1. So this right here is the black version of Bandai's Action Base 1. Multiple colors are available, and some exclusive ones do come in some kits. Across the bottom here it says all the kits you can use it with from 1/44th scale to 1/100, but this is definitely the de facto 1/100th scale Gundam action base. And what I mean by that is, this is pretty much what you'll want for your master grades and your full mechanics kits or any other 1/100 Bandai kit, because it's big, it's strong, and it gets the job done. So the thing with the Bandai Action Base 1 is the fact that Bandai got it right the first time, and that is not the case with some of the ones later on in the list. Now I will mention, you do have to build this. So if you love building plastic models, hooray! If you got 100 kits you want to get up in the air, not so hooray. The instructions are easy to follow, and I will mention you do need a screwdriver in this build. This is the central aspect of the action base, and this does have some nice piping detail, meaning you could paint this up too if you wanted it a little bit more fancy than just plain black. So inside of the bag that you get in here, we've got some screws for the build, this little yellow sheet right here, which is cut to fit double-sided sticky tape for some of the cradles in here, and these 3 runners which do require assembly. So like I mentioned, the Action Base 1, as all Bandai action bases require, well, you need to put it together. You need to put together the base section, which is made out of 3 pieces, a central aspect, and then you attach the square aspect onto the octagon, and this is your platform. Then you build 2 stands, that's the smaller front stand section, and then the larger main body of the stand. This isn't necessarily all that difficult, but like I mentioned, if you're building 3 to 10 of these for a bunch of your kits, it will get a bit time consuming. So there we go, there is the Action Base 1 finished, and still to this day, after so many years of its inception, this is still the best 1/100th scale Gundam kit stand that you can get, at least buy from Bandai. As for the features, if you notice this little bit of a ridge right here, that means you're actually able to attach more of these hexagons on to make a big old platform, so you can hook loads of these together if you do want to make a diorama or a bunch of kits in a battle kind of position. I only recommend these for shelf display because they really are hard to realign. You need to disconnect the front peg from the rear peg. If you want to extend this particular part, you need to twist it, then stretch it out, and again, these parts can kind of pop a bit. It's not the most user-friendly, but once you get it in position, it will stay in position. Extending this involves dropping out this little locking mechanism here, and then you can pull it long. The little teeth sections you can see right there is how this locks in, and there's your extension. If you do want to adjust the angle up top, you do need to hit it with your screwdriver, unscrew this, and then you can move this. It's also ratcheted somewhat, so you can actually get it to a set angle, then lock it back into position with the screw. So yeah, overall, in the end, when it does come to the pros and cons of the Action Base 1, it is rock solid and great for big master grade or 1/100th scale kits. Also, you can attach a whole bunch of them together for a bit of a massive display. As for the cons with this, I do find all of the moving around of this is finicky, so it does mean you cannot kind of just change it on a whim. You do need to kind of take it apart, unscrew, do all that sort of stuff. Also, some large kits sometimes, if putting enough leverage up here, can actually pull out the back hole sometimes. Now this one is nice and tight feeling, but good old Archimedes can screw you over every now and then because there are some parts that will pop out. So I recommend gluing these 2 pieces into the base for a permanent display. Up top here is where you do attach your gunpla onto it, and it's a little square hole. This will attach directly into most master grade base adapters that come included with the gunpla kits, and we do have little adapters involved. This one right here just makes it into the usual 3mm attachment peg that you'll see on most high-grade kits, so you could throw a high-grade up here. And these ones right here are kind of general purpose adapters for older gunpla that didn't have attachment base adapters or holes. It's basically a little bit of a cradle. You throw this in between the legs, the leg joints poking out either side of this cradle, and you take this little double-sided sticky tape and stick it in to the cradle in order to stick the gunpla on. It's very low tech, and you know, it can or can't get the job done sometimes. Not great. So yeah, 8 out of 10, ride or die, master grade action base. Now there are some very unique variants of this particular action base. For example, these two right here. My favorite one being this. This is the Xeon logo just as an action base. Basically, as you can see, this right here is your lower aspect to it. We've got a Fetty symbol available as well. When your stem is built, you just throw it on in just like so, of course, without the runner around it, and it's such a cool display. Now, there are color variants of the standard version as well: white, clear, black, and even some exclusives. Bandai Action Base 2. Now, this right here was basically what Bandai designed for high-grade or smaller 1/44th scale kits. Whereas what we saw before is for the bigger kits, this one is for the smaller ones. Now, I don't have one of these handy whatsoever at all right now. Even though I did check out the old storage catacombs, I couldn't find one anywhere. I've got a bunch of them, but that really does attest to the fact that these really are not good. You've just got the one little stem. It does have a bit of an extension gimmick, and it kind of just locks into position at one angle. It's really awkward, needs attachments for up on the top in order to attach into your gunpla. And just for me, it's always been such a disappointment. It's something I never reach for, so I don't even have one around. I don't keep them around. I use all sorts of action bases. This one I cannot recommend. 2 out of 10 gets it off the ground, but is it worth the headache? And they look bad too. Bandai Action Base 3. Now this one is a little rarer, that's why I don't actually have a packaged version. Now I do happen to have one of these in my collection. As far as I can see, these are quite rare because I'm not sure if they actually retail anymore. These are essentially, for lack of a better kind of description, a picture frame. You pop in whatever you want here. For example, the actual kit comes with a little bit of a kind of earth backdrop. There's little stands around back, so when it's actually sitting down, it will be angled towards you. And then you get this inside as well, which, just like the other kit, you do have to build. This is similar enough to what we would have seen with the Action Base 1, but much better than the Action Base 2. This has a bit of a ratcheted joint. This right here is your angle selector, so you pop it into one of these to keep it at whatever angle you want. We do have this little joint which can be tightened via a screw, and up top then we've got a little bit of a square adapter segment. This you attach on various little attachments that do come included with it, for example a 3mm peg attachment adapter. There's a multitude of little holes around here for wherever you do want to stick this little stand on, and then you can set it all up to kind of have your gunpla kit hovering out in front of it. For example, this one right here did come with a special real grade expansion for the real grade wing Gundam, so it did look a little bit something like this when it was complete. Again, a little bit rarer. At the end of the day, it's kind of cool, but at the same time, I feel like it kind of falls short of what it wants to do. It's never really going to look like it's hovering in front of what's in there, but at the same time, it's a novel approach. It does work okay as a stand, not the greatest. It is a little bit on the wonky side, so I would give this, the Action Base 3, a 5 out of 10. It's not very practical, but it's very novel. Bandai's Action Base 4. Essentially, what was meant to be the upgrade to Action Base 1. So back in 2017, it seems like Bandai decided that the Action Base 1 wasn't good enough. So this is the new Master Grade Action Base. Of course, like it says here, it can be used with anything, high grades, real grades, whatever you like, but it also does include the larger scale 1/100 Master Grade. Now at this point you could probably tell, because I already said that the Action Base 1 is the de facto action base for 1/44th scale kits, that this one didn't necessarily, well, work out in usurping the throne of the Action Base 1. So what we've got in here is 3 of these smaller hexagonal bases, as well as 2 runners for putting it together. And as you'll see, there is no screws in the build whatsoever, so that is definitely a little bit of a bonus. We do have 2 arms in here, a multitude of smaller little aspects for using with it, And when you do get this all cut out and assembled, this is pretty much what you end up with. So these are the 3 hexagonal bases popped together. This is the stand stem, and there are a bunch of adapters, even more than these 2 right here, but these are the main 2 you will be using. So when we talk about this right here, this is basically your platform. So as you can see, there's no detail, but a whole bunch of these little holes. Comparison-wise, here is what we would have gotten with the Action Base 1, so this right here is meant to be the upgrade. This is something I've never actually tried, so I'm curious, are they compatible with each other? And the answer is, oh, they are. So if you've ever wondered, can this fit in? It most certainly can. And then vice versa on the other side. So these 3 little hexagonal bases are attached by these tiny little square segments right here, which does mean this isn't actually all that solid. It's semi-solid, but not really. Uneven surfaces or anything like that will screw up its integrity entirely. So it's a little bit on the weaker side. When it does come to the stem in here, which will be holding up your Gundam, this does not include any kind of screws. However, it does have a bunch of these little pull-out lever aspects. When you pop them in, it locks everything into position. When you move them out, that means you can now angle whatever you want to angle. So that's 1 point and 2 points with these little levers, so top and bottom. That will get you your basic angles. Then in the center here, we've got these sections of teeth. This cracks off like so, cracks off like that, and then you just reposition this to get your angle, which is extremely pedantic, as you would expect. To get the right angle, always kind of breaking it off, attaching it on, moving these little bits. I find it a little bit of a headache. However, once you get it and it's set, it's not too bad. When it comes to the attachment options up top, we've got our square-to-square adapter, which attaches in here, giving you your master grade Action Base attachment point. The other version is a square to a 3mm peg, which is your usual high grade or real grade attachment point. This then attaches into any of the larger holes. For example, it pops in just like so. Again, like I mentioned, this does not hold too well. This raises up off the ground when it comes to any kind of weight. So sometimes if you've got a heavy kit, you'll have this cocking up at the back, which really isn't that awesome. However, unlike the Action Base 1, we've got a cacophony of nice options in here as well. For example, this right here, this is a smaller sub-arm stand. So it is just bend at the middle, a 3mm point up top, and an Action Base attachment point down bottom. You can make this a single by attaching this down here if you want to. This will attach into any of the holes on this kit. So if your Gundam kit does come with a little optional extra that flies around like a core fighter or a weapon or something like that, you can pop it on with it. In here we also get this, which is basically for clamping onto something so it can support weapons from underneath or attach around the waist of some kits. This right here is an optional extra which changes the length at which this is at. So you have 4 options included in the box. This right here is an angled attachment, so if you've got a kit or a figure with a hole in its back, there you go, pops in, not from below, but from behind. This tiny little guy right here, this is a 3mm to 3mm adapter. You want to stick a peg in, but you've got a peg coming out of whatever you want, well, you just pop this in, and you can pop anything with a peg into this for display. This little piece right here, you attach this on just like so, if you want yourself a half-length stand as opposed to a double-length stand. So yeah, there we go, that is the Action Base 4. Ranking-wise, I'd give this a 6.5 out of 10. When it comes to the pros, you've got a whole bunch of options in here, so you've got pretty much everything, all the ammunition you need for all the different model kits and figures you want to get up in the air. Cons, just like with the Action Base 1, moving this little stem around is a bit of a pain, so once you get it where you want it, you're going to want to leave it there. The biggest con, however, is this is not the most structurally sound. Also, it doesn't have, well, too much strength compared to the Action Base 1, so bigger kits will struggle, and this can break apart into these 3 little bases and kind of drop your kit. It's okay, not great, but it's more variable than the Action Base 1. Bandai's Action Base 5. So this is essentially the high-grade version of the Action Base 4. It's pretty much the exact same thing, but a bit of a stripped-down kit. Inside of the bag, we have one of these hexagons and one runner of plastic. The hexagon right here is identical to one of the hexagons we would have gotten with the Action Base 4. It's just 1 instead of there being 3. And yes, that does mean you can use one of these to extend your Action Base 4. So basically you can keep adding more and more and more and more and more and more and more on. Glue them to your wall, stick your kits into it for an ultimate flying wall display. Even though we've only got the one runner of parts in here, you've pretty much got everything you would have seen with the other kit. What actually makes it smaller is the stems are smaller than what we would have seen on the Action Base 4, so these are more suited to smaller scale kits. And this right here is what it looks like complete. Now, this is one I've had in my collection before. I didn't just build the one I had. As you can see, this is a clear black, not an actual opaque black like the packet I had. All of these do come in various different colors. Some of them are exceptionally cool, but mainly I tend to stick to black or clear depending on where I want to place them. So everything we would have seen in the Action Base 4 is in the Action Base 5 right here. So that is the same little lever to move the lower segment, the same little lever to move the upper segment. I forgot to mention this in the other review, but because of the way this is designed, it has ratcheted teeth inside, so it means there's only set angles you can stop it at, which sometimes can get a little bit bothersome when you want to get the perfect pose. Also, along the edge here, we do have 3mm holes, so you can attach additional little peg arms into these if your kit comes included with something like that. There's also tons of 3mm holes around the side too for the exact same thing. But yeah, this is everything we would have seen in the Action Base 4, just one hexagon and a smaller stand. So when it comes to the Action Base 5, when it comes to the pros, this is rock solid. This is a lot more solid than the Action Base 4 because it is just one piece, and of course the arm is shorter, making it a lot more solid. It has all of the same little accessory attachment points and tons of included little aspects, so this will work with pretty much anything you've got from model kits to action figures. It's great. The only down point is it is a little bit awkward to kind of pose all of this stuff, the levers up and down, as well as this detach and reattach arm bit in the middle. But if you want something for permanent putting on your shelf, this is great, especially for smaller kits. That's why to me the Action Base 5 is a solid 8 out of 10 and a great little action base for smaller scale kits. Which brings us to a little bit of a side. This is the Bandai The Witch from Mercury Weapon Display Base, aka an add-on for the Action Base 4 and the Action Base 5. This came out in 2023, and as you can see, it is mainly with the Witch from Mercury in mind, because those kits tend to have a lot of these tiny little bit staves which fly all around the place, and this is an extension to your action base to use those bits. So as far as I know, this only comes in clear. So basically what you've got right here is these tiny little platforms like so. In here we also have these little flexible stands. They come in 2 lengths. This is the shortest version, and there is a longer one too. We've got a 3mm attachment up top and a 3mm attachment down bottom. Also included in here are a multitude of various different attachment points. Some are specific to some of the stuff included in Witch from Mercury kits, and some of them are just general purpose depending on the various different attachment points you may have in other non-Witch from Mercury kits. Now, if you've got your black Action Base 4 or 5 like the ones I've just been looking at, and you try to pop these guys on, they're not necessarily going to look the greatest. Because they're clear, they're not going to look the worst either, almost like they're not really there. So that's not too bad. However, of course, there are clear variants of Action Base 4 and 5s around, so this will match a little bit better with those. However, this is high gloss and this is a little bit matte. Now, one big complaint I've always had with these Witch from Mercury Action Bases is the fact that you've only got one of these guys right here, which is the attachment point for attaching it onto an action base like so. So extending your hexagon out like so. So that means you do have 2 of these included, and you don't have one for attaching on. Now, each one of these hexagons does come with one of those attachments. So that does mean you're going to have to use the one that's included. I have to use a black one right now because all of my crystal clear ones are a little bit on the missing side, but then you attach this on just like so. Now, you might want to outfit this the whole way around with 1, 2 more Witch from Mercury kits. However, those will only have 2 attachment points. You've used the one from this, leaving you with 2 that don't attach. So that's my only big issue with those. Otherwise, overall, they do look pretty nice. When they're attached onto the side like so, you can pop on these stands just like you're seeing right there. And inside of the bag, you do get 3 of these for attaching on. So that means you get 3 supplementary stands and 2 little attachment aspects. So that's pretty cool. Everything works out pretty good. Also, you can attach this into the side of the stem if you wanted to. But yeah, the Witch from Mercury supplementary stands, I give them a 5 out of 10. They extend onto this action base extremely well, but I don't know why they only included 1 little base attachment. Bandai's Action Base 6, essentially their figure style action base. So according to what I'm kind of gathering off the packet right here, Bandai came up with this particular kind of action base once they started making girl kits, or their figure-rise standard kits as well. We do have a 30-minute missions here as well, and overall the whole purpose of the Action Base 6 is these are standing stands for smaller mecha, or flight stands for very light girl kits. So this right here is what you got when you get it out of the bag. As far as I know, these are only available in clear, at least that's all I've ever seen. These are duplicates of one thing, so you do have two stands in here. You can actually separate this out and see that they are 100% exactly identical. Once these are completed, this right here is what you get, but you do get two included inside of the box. So you can build this arm with as many segments as you want, up to a maximum of 3. Now there are 2 stands in here, so you could harvest some more arm parts off the other one, but it just gets exponentially weaker from there. It's a simple design. It's a peg down into this hole right here. You've got your 3mm gunpla peg up top, and all of these just kind of move like so. A little bit on the weak side, so not that great for aerial poses. Down here we do have 4 attachment points for where you want to attach this on, so you can pop it on just like so. And this is one I do not recommend for putting your, well, kits flying on. It's just going to flop. However, this is a spectacular kit for one thing. That is a standing stand. So I'm just gonna break this down into just a 2-point version. These are keyhole locked in, so they won't just fall out on you. And these are an incredible stand for one thing really and one thing only. If you've got yourself a Gundam model kit like this one right here, which is absolutely back heavy and will just fall over on itself, this is just great for that. Attach the stand on into the crotch, bring it down into position, and there you go. The kit finally has the support it needs for just standing there. I'll give you a little bit of a better angle. It just holds it in position like that. So for popping a unsteady kit up on your shelf in a standing position, this will work great. It's not going to hold next to anything at all in the air besides maybe a tiny 30-minute sisters. So when it comes to Bandai's Action Base 6, this is a 9 out of 10 on the ground for standing poses, a 0 out of 10 in the air. So if you want something for just standing on your shelf, perfect. So when it comes to the Action Base 6, there are variants. These are stickered variants. First off, we've got the Action Base 6 Mobile Suit Gundam The Witch from Mercury sticker set. So inside of this, it's the exact same pair of Action Base 6s, but we do get this 4-sheet of stickers. Now I will mention there's 4 stickers, only 2 action bases, so if you want to use all of the stickers, you will have to get a standard Action Base 6 pack at the same time. When you stick your sticker on, this is what you get in the end, and the effect is very good. These are high quality stickers, high gloss, and they look themselves like they are plastic. They look really good. Now, I did mention that these stands aren't great for having kits in the air, but I have had kits in the air on these before to, mixed results. I've had the Daryl Balde up on top of one of these with your sticker of Guel down below, and it did work out quite well, but I do recommend using these over the long term as standing stands as opposed to in the air stands. So that's the sticker version. And then there's this right here, which is the Action Base 6 mirror sticker set. Now, if you just build model kits, you might be like, oh, okay, that's cool. But if you're into action figures, you'll know exactly what this is for. So once again, you've got your 2 stands in here, and then you've got a reflective mirrored bit for up top. Basically, for being an Alskebe. The sticker just pops onto it just like so, same as the other ones. You've got a hole there then for attaching your stand, and there is a little bit of an example of what it will look like once you get your Gundam kit onto it. So, it's kind of cool, but a little bit unnecessary. Next up, Bandai's Action Base 7. This is essentially your flight action base, whereas this 6 was a ground standing action base. It's a little bit more robust. Once again, inside of this pack, you do get 2 of these action bases, and quite similar to what we would have seen with the 6, but it is a little bit bigger, and the build is very unique. This right here is what one of them looks like once complete. So, for example, here is the size of an Action Base 6, and this is an Action Base 7. Again, 4 holes, just a little bit bigger. We've got some ridging down bottom to make it a little bit stronger, and the stem is a whole lot bigger and a whole lot stronger, but I will mention a caveat towards the end. When it comes to the build of this particular one, I have to go through this one just because it is so unique compared to what we would have seen with the previous ones. So you attach the attachment point up top just like so, and then you attach this stem on sideways like so, and then they slot inside of each other to make one of the actual stem aspects. When it comes to the second half of this, you just pop it onto the bottom one like that. That is just one half. Then you take this bit, attach it in perpendicularly, just like so, and then that moves down and slots in between the lower one to create the actual stem. That is mad cool. You then just attach it into your stand just like so, wherever you want to pop that in. Now there are two tops to this. This one is a little bit of a wider one. This one right here is your 3mm peg, so that's what you will attach into your high grade or real grade kits. These aren't really usable with master grades or anything larger. The thicker version attaches into this cuff, just like so, again a keyhole locking mechanism. This then turns around just like that, and gives you your 3mm point pointing up the way. Now what this gives you that no other stand I've ever seen does is side to side pivot at the top here to turn your Gundam into positions. So you can't just bring it forward and back, which of course you can bring it forward and back, but now you've got this side to side too, which blew my mind at first because I've never seen that, and it gives unprecedented posing prowess. However, this cuff breaks so easily, so I would say pose it one and done, don't use it repeatedly. It is a brittle plastic. Also included in here is one of these kind of little grabby hands too. That just pops onto the top like that. So this you can use for supporting gunpla's weapons, for attaching onto a gunpla that doesn't actually have an action base hole, or holding onto the waist of a figurized standard kit or a 30-minute sisters. Overall quite good, but the plastic is brittle and I have had these break in the past, so not good for prolonged use. However, quite strong and good for a one and done, pose and pop it on your shelf forever. I give the Action Base 7 right here a 7 out of 10 because of the break risk. But this would have been a 9 out of 10 if that little cuff section wouldn't break, because it's such a strong, simple, and dynamic stand. And the final Bandai Action Base is the Action Base 8, aka the same generation as the 6 and the 7, but this one is aimed at master grade and full mechanics 1/100 scale kits. Now I'm kind of excited because I've never actually tried one of these guys out at all, so this is my first time taking a look at one, so I can't really talk about experience with how well it holds up over time. Again, this isn't clear, all I've ever seen is a clear version of these. Just like we would have seen back with the Action Base 1, there is screws included, so you can tighten this guy up. Inside here we've got two runners, and unlike the Action Base 6 and the Action Base 7, we do only get one of these inside. So when it does come to the assembly of this right here, it is very straightforward. You just attach all the various little stems together, you then attach the bolts through. They're very robust, nice bolts, and I'll also mention that the hex key for screwing these in is included. It is made out of plastic, which makes it a little bit weak, but they did include 5 of them, and each of these have 4 ends to them, so you've got 20 attempts to get your screwing on. It all attaches together very nicely, and then you pop it into the bottom just like so. This right here is what you get in the end, and this seems to be a kind of resting position they mentioned, almost for a standing pose maybe for your master grade kit. So you've got this stem here, this one you can adjust, pop that like so. This is the square top for attaching a master grade base adapter into. You then have this little adapter which kind of makes it into the squared off top. And then we've also got your 3mm adapter peg in here too. So you've got a whole bunch of options, including this one, which attaches into the back. Flip it like so, you can rotate it around and it can go in from underneath. So pretty much anything you'd want for master grades and high grades. There is nothing like a waist grabbing segment in here, so this doesn't have too many options. It's just a big old master grade stand. Once you get it into the position you want it in, you can just tighten up all of the bolts in here. I've already stripped one of these plastic things down, but all the rest of them still work. So these are eventually gonna wear out on you. Anyway, the bolts are very easy to get into position, and there you go. Of course, you can also extend this out and up. So apparently this is also usable for flight poses. I'm not sure how it would really work out because you got no secondary stand to hold it up, so I'm not sure if I'd be too happy leaving this up on my shelf with a master grade teetering up on top. But as a standing stand, it's not too bad at all. Okay, so to give this a little bit of a quick test, I've got myself a master grade. This is the only master grade I had lying around that actually has its base adapter attached in, because I'm one of those people that tends to leave all my gunpla just standing on shelves so I can pick them up and play around with them at any point I want to, so I like them in a kind of standard standing pose. Anyway, so we bring this on in. Oh, by the way, this is the Master Grade Eclipse 2, or something similar to that in case you don't recognize it. It is a premium Bandai kit. So popping out that bit. This is one of those kits that has tiny, tiny, itty bitty silly feet. So that does mean it'll be handy to see how this works out for standing poses. So that attaches in there like so. And that literally just dropped right on into a standing position perfectly for me. That feels really, really, really nice. There, whoop, lost a weapon. There is what it looks like from the front standing on this. So it's very clean, very tidy, and will kind of, it's very low profile, clear, so will always look good no matter where you pop it. If you want something for on a shelf or a desk, this works nicely. How about in the air though? So this isn't fully tightened up, but I'm popping them up like so. That isn't terrible. As you can see, there is a lot of wiggle. This is not the heaviest master grade around. I'm not sure if I'd be the hugest fan of leaving them up in the air on this. Even if you tighten them all up, you'll still have that element of wiggle to it. But overall, not too bad. I think I'd go for an Action Base 1 in the air. But for a ground stand, this is absolutely perfect, and so low profile, your kit will look great. So Bandai's Action Base 8, I would give this a 9 out of 10 as a standing stand, maybe even a 9.5 because it is just so low profile and will make all your attention be on just the kit. As an aerial stand though, I'd give it maybe a 4. Not bad, will hold up your kit if it's not too lightweight, but it has a lot of wiggle to it and it's such a drop risk. I'd say stick to the ground.
Bonus round.
So right now I'm going to quickfire mention a couple of things that you may want to know about. You're like, hey, there's the Action Base 1. Wrong. This is a different kit. As you can see, this has a kind of almost lined pattern and a standard set of dots compared to this right here, which is the Action Base 1. So all the dots are over on this side and we've got a piping design. This is a little different. Also, when it comes to the stem on it, this one right here is a whole lot nicer. This has this little kind of dropping mechanism here instead of the twisting mechanism, which allows it to slide up and down, just like we would have with this for the up and down, same as the Action Base 1. And we've got one up here which turns this up here instead of a screw. So there are no screws included in this. So you might be wondering, where do I get this awesome variant of the Action Base 1? And this is a kit, or should I say stand, that comes included with some gunpla kits but is not sold separately. So some master grades and full mechanics come with these. If you've ever wondered if you've seen them in places, or if you have one and you don't know where it came from, that's where you get them. This is exclusive to some gunpla kits inside of the box, cannot be bought separately, and is way better than the Action Base 1. This one right here for master grades is definitely a 9 out of 10. The only down point is, I found that pops out all the time. Glue that, and it's great. You also might have seen these weird guys every now and then. It looks like a V from above, and it's covered in weird little knobbly bits all the way around. This is Bandai's runnerless stand. Now you might be like, what does runnerless stand mean? And basically it just means when this does come included in a kit, because that's where you get them, it's essentially laid out a little something like this right here. I'm just going to say something like that. And it's just all stuck together with no runner. You just cut it out. You attach it together just like so. I do recommend chopping these little knobs off because they're just for holding it together, and then you can attach this at various different angles up here depending on how you want to display your kit. There's not a lot of options really to this. It's only really good for light high grades or probably the kits it comes included with. We also have 3mm holes here so you can stick some little stands onto this. So if you're ever wondering where these come from, they come included with some random ass high grade kits. Not all, just some. It's okay, not great, will keep your kit off the ground. Also, I do have a couple of other kind of interesting recommendations. First off, big money. You planning to spend big? How about you get something like this right here? This is Mega House's Realistic Model Series Action Base. Basically, you got a little stand in the back, you can pop your Gundam on, it looks like a ruined city, and it costs a whole bunch of money. It's pretty cool, I like this a lot, but it's expensive. Smart money. This is my favorite stand for high grades and master grades. There's two versions, a square one and a smaller hexagonal one. These are Good Smile Company's simple stands. 3 of these in a packet, either square or hex. They don't come mixed, for just $12 or euro. They come basically like this and like this with some grabby little waist adapters, and there's 3 stems, 3 bases, 3 waist adapters, again for $12. That is $4 a pop. These come no Assembly required, the screws are in here, everything is ready to go, the plastic is super high quality, I've never broken one of these at all, and they're perfect for ground poses depending on the height of your kit because they don't go all the way down, probably one of the worst aspects about them, but they're perfect for in the air flight poses for high grades. Also for video and photos, you can angle these whichever way you want. A lot of Bandai's kits kind of limited, especially the older style ones, but these are just great. They're cheap, they're plug and play, I love them to bits. My favorite high grade, real grade stands, use them every single day and I have 1,000 of them. No money! Are you absolutely flat broke? You want your gunpla in the air but you've got zero cash whatsoever? Well, I did make a video on how to make stands or action bases for your gunpla using the included runners. It's fairly simple to do, so I will link that video. If I forget to link that video, just give it an old search. It's just, you just melt or glue runner stands together and you'll get your kit in the air. No additional cost on top of the kit you bought. And finally, to finish the video off, what Bandai Action Bases do I recommend? When it comes to displaying your high grades, I recommend the Action Base 5. It's an all-rounder with tons of accessories inside of the box. However, it is awkward to repose, so if you're just displaying, it's great. When it comes to your master grades, this is the ride or die. This is the Action Base 1. It's been the, well, best you can buy since its inception. The included stand that comes with some gunpla is better, but that's not really much use to you because you can't actually buy it. If you want to stand your 1/44th scale high grades and your real grades, then I say go for this right here, which is the Action Base 6. It's lightweight, you get 2 in a pack, and it will stand your high grades and real grades up without them falling over. A little bit of moral support. Still have not put this guy through the ringer just yet, but this is the Action Base 8. I liked what I just saw. That was very nice. So for standing your master grades, not flying them, this is the way to go. So again, flight for your 1/44th scale, and your 1/100th scale, standing for your high grade real grade, and your master grade 1/100s. So in order, Action Base 1, Action Base 5, Action Base 6, and Action Base 8. But yeah, that is it for the video. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more gunpla reviews, tutorials, and all of that sort of stuff. And as always, I will see you next time. As always, this video right here and every single video I make would not be possible without each and every one of you guys who watches this video. And special thanks at the end of this video right here to those who support on the channel memberships as well as over on Patreon, including Caleb Engelhart, Joe, OG59061, Scotty Thomas, and Simon.